This is Jerome Wright, and once again you're joining me here on my YouTube Jeronification channel here on YouTube, or basically Jerome Wright. Do YouTube search Jerome Wright, you get to my 200 plus videos. I believe I should have up to about 210, 215 YouTube videos now, and I kind of actually just lost track of them all. But anyway, I'm here with this image of a female with a unicorn, and I just did a video yesterday by Raphael, Renaissance artist Raphael, and I decoded that image, and I explained in detail why there are depictions of unicorns with females in these images, okay. And the overall video was inspired by fellow Facebook member John Zielinski, and he also follows me on YouTube there, and he asked me what I thought of this image and what he thought that he actually seen in it. Not in this image, but in the other one from Raphael. I think it's Raphael 46 or something like that there, with the unicorn in it, in its skin. In fact, the image is right here. And to make a long story short, Raphael's image is here, and then if you were to rotate the image to the side there, well hold on. If you were to rotate the image, actually basically what you'll see is that you'll see the partial faces of beings, that of being a lion, an African man, and then mutations thereof. And do I have this upside down? No, I have it upright. And if I bring it in closer there, you can actually see what is actually there. In the middle, you see the full face of the cat there. Its nose, on its nose there is an ape. There's an African man there, his chin and his lips is over here. And then it shows the broken down genes of that by the lion, which stated that the semen of the lion dominated, the genetics of the lion dominated. And it's describing how this damsel here actually got her likeness. And also in her hair, protruding from her hairline, is also, and I highlighted it for you, is the image of a lion. And if you'll notice when you Google this image by Raphael, where I have the eye at, if you were to Google the image and enhance it, you will see the indentation there for that eye of the lion there. It's describing, was basically what this is stating, people, is that this is describing how this woman got her eye color, her hair, and her fair skin, and through through a sequence of genetic bridging, which began with our ape and African ancestor. Well, ape, African ancestor, of course, yes. Now, what's happening here in this image is what I described here about the lion, about the genetic bridging, about the unicorn as a representation of the horse. All of these things are being described here as well. And I didn't have this image yesterday when I did my first video, because I would have included it in instead of being here and making a second video. But basically, I'm going to show you how these Renaissance artists, in this case the artist is Francesco di Giorgio, and what's that? Martin, I believe it is. And this is Chastity with the unicorn. Chastity with the unicorn. That's the name title of this image here. So if you Google this this painting by Francesco Giorgio Martin, and this is Chastity with the unicorn. Okay, you will see what I'm actually pointing out to you to be in these encryptions of this artwork. Let me see if I can find me a pointer here. All right, I'm gonna have to use this pencil, I guess, as a pointer. I have highlights, but I'm gonna start back here. Okay, here at this tree here, right here. Okay, this is the first tree. It's going directly down toward your hand right here. You will notice that to one side of this tree, and this is the landscape. This is unique how the artists use these landscapes. It represents land masses, land bodies where life evolved, how mankind came from what? From his ape African ancestor, and they even have dinosaur there, which represents that of our reptilian ancestor as well. And in some cases, the fish, because we evolved from out of the oceanic properties of our world. Okay, these artists knew that. Even back in, as early as I see catacomb images of the 2nd century, the 3rd century, the 4th century, and then coming later into artwork, the Renaissance era, which was oversaw by religion, by popes, that these artists, this famous artwork was only famous because it was encoded with this stuff here. It's my position that this artwork replaces something that replaces our world art, which was ancient in the first place. It's my position that the Vatican and ancient royalty and ancient religion oversaw these artworks, because you know why? Because they had the key and the knowledge to what they wanted to be in these paintings. You know how they got it and obtained it? Because these people are the ones that commissioned the early explorations globally upon our world. So when they went out to these different places where, like Angkor Wat, ancient Maya, all of these locations, imagine what they actually found and destroyed in knowledge, but brought back. And they took an ancient artwork and transformed it into their own idea of what their interpretation was of saying. Now, this is what I want to describe to you. Look at this bizarre artwork. People, what in the world is a woman doing out in the wilderness with a unicorn? And then go in your mind, and not just this picture, look at all of our famous artwork that's created by Michelangelo, by Da Vinci, by Rembrandt. Look at the unusual aspects and scenarios that are contained there in these paintings. The hidden messages is what everybody's saying. The mystery behind them. You see what I'm saying, people? So the key to understanding all of this is understand first who oversaw all of this artwork in the first place, which was ancient royalty and ancient religion. The first people that actually went out there and conquered the explorations of our world are commissioned saying, and had the ancient knowledge to what true artwork was originally all about, because they discovered it. And then they took their ideas and incorporated it in paintings on what these images represent thereafter, these ancient secrets. Now, I want to take you for a minute. I want to take you, and I like to tell a little story behind all of this, because it opens up your mind to realizing that what we have here and what I'm bringing before you is reality. Look at ancient Egypt, the things that weren't destroyed, because a lot of this stuff on the outside were destroyed. But look at the tombs and things that they're open up now, and the king's burial chambers and all that they're open up, and the glyphs that are in there, where they have these ancient, they call them ancient gods and ancient mythical beings, half bird, half lion, half snake, half donkey, half ape. You see these images and glyphs. It's my position that each one of those stages that they are showing you are creatures that existed genetically within man's kind, evolutionary, and genetic evolutionary becoming. That's what I'm trying to state, because what I'm stating is that from our ape and African ancestors, from our darkest of images, from our darkest of being. Let me see if I can find that image right quick. It's my position that from this likeness, and even far more, I'm not even going to say far more word, but our apis ancestor, the apis of apes that you can imagine, these artists are detailing in their artwork how they evolved or were transformed into this. And this is what this is all about. This is what all of our world's art globally is commemorating. This is what religion is all about. It's all about a cult-like ritual, a cult-like process that calls for, and it's always been in place, how mankind came from this creature to these likeness, from this likeness in creature to this likeness in creature. And that's what this is all about. Now, for those of you that aren't on board yet, that do not see the light, then if you want to believe that from this likeness here, a natural process emerged that calls for the likeness of this creature here, then you're kidding yourself. Look at our African continent. It's already been established that all life evolved off the African continent. People, how do we get from this? This is what was on the African continent, people. This is what it described that man emerged from monkey. Then how did we get to this, people? Well, it's described. The blueprints for it all is contained there in every piece of artwork on our planet. And even art that has not even been recognized as art, I've discovered. And you know, I was looking at the Adventures of Indiana Jones. I seen a clip or excerpt in there, and where Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, was reading, and he was following this trail of clues, and it read that in this ancient book that the God, there was a clue in the earth, and only the gods can read it. And it was a clue in the earth, and only the gods could read it. Now, this clue that he ascertained to be Harrison Ford in the movie, for the sake of the movie, they identified that location as being the Nazca lines in Peru. Well, people, I've discovered that the true billboards of our world was all the ancient locations where mountains were. I don't think I have my Grand Canyon image up here, but the real writings and the real glyphs, the original glyphs, are on the mountainsides of our ancient mountain structures. I found out that in the Vishnu portion, see my other videos here, even see my Facebook caption, highlight caption, where there's I have the Vishnu portion of the Grand Canyon. There's wing beans, glyphs of wing beans and all of that. There's glyphs there that have not even been recognized yet. And I found 4 locations in the Grand Canyon that contain such glyphs. And basically all you have to do is look at archive images of the Grand Canyon, and it's a wrap. You'll see that what I've discovered is actual, because these are government government circulated photos that I'm utilizing. Okay, so look at my other videos here, my Grand Canyon discoveries and everything. I'm not going to pull that up because it's going to take too much time for this video, because I just want to show you here with this artist. This painting is describing how from this image came this image, or from this being came this being. That's all this painting is actually stating. Now, the representation of the unicorn. They take that unicorn and turn that into something divine, just like they do with angels and all, because it's okay then for a unicorn to be depicted with a woman, because it takes your imagination away from seeing the truth. Just like here, if you see a unicorn in this woman's lap, you dismiss it as being something divine, a sacred scenario. But if you remove the unicorn horn, you have what is that of a horse creature. This woman is describing how she was bridged over the horse, the genetics of the horse. Behind her back is the lion, and in the mountain ranges encrypted in here is the ape. This woman is describing how she was genetically sacrificed, and the sacrificial scenario that took place calls for her altering, which calls for her fairer skin and her hair at this point. That's what they are describing genetically. how she fathered herself away from her ape and African ancestor to take on this likeness. People, you say what you want to say. There is no other theory. There is no other nothing. There is nothing. This is fact, by the way, because every artist, Renaissance artist, I don't care who it is, I can actually do this with. I don't care if they said that Jesus made a painting. I can show you the exact same thing that is depicted in there, because nothing meant more to these people that were genetically altered in themselves than who they genetically were, and therefore maintaining a record of saying. That's it. That's what it all was about. Now, in the mountains back here, let me show you back here. When you Google this image, it's Chastity with the unicorn, and it's by Francesco di Giorgio, and I think it's Martin, and it's right there at the bottom there if you can see it. Okay. When you Google the image, this is what you want to see. I'm going to show you the ape first. And I got it highlighted. Let me see if we can get in here. I know that, you know, my other computer, I have a gateway, and man, those things suck. What is the model number on that thing? Because I have an $1,100 gateway touchscreen, and I'm going to tell everybody not to buy that damn thing, because that thing sucks. I tell you, miserably. I have an all-in-one gateway, and I have been having problems. A great computer when it's working, but my screen done blacked out again. And this is the second time. The first time it happened, it was under warranty, and I got it fixed. Now I got to go and take it to the shop. So I'm using my laptop, which is an HP, and this is why it looks like my videos are a little bit different than what I normally have. I'm not perfected anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. But where we at here? Where's the ape? At the tip of my pencil right there. You see that guy? In the landscape. Okay? In the landscape. There's the head of an ape right there. Now this is reversed. When you actually pull it up on your screen, the ape is going to be on the other side. Okay, but there that guy is right there. There's the ape, the blackest of black apes right there. Right next to that ape is the head of a dinosaur creature right there, and you will be able to find it when you Google it. You will see it back here in the old blackened stone, which represents our founding genetics back here, right there. You see that, people? Now, to understand what is being said here, you must understand also where these creatures came from. I know where this guy, this ape guy, emerged from, or how he came to be. Alright? I know how the dinosaur came to be. Alright? So, in order to understand what is being said here, you have to understand all of that. There's, the guy John Zielinski asked me if I knew or understood everything. Well, I'm having a genuine paranormal experience and encounter, and I would not be able to see none of this and understand none of this if I didn't know or didn't understand what is actually being said by the message. Okay? Now, when you Google the image, right there, where my eyes, where I have the eyes, the nose, and the mouth for the ape there, then look at here where I have the dinosaur looking creature. Google the image, and you will find that right there. Okay, the image of an ape. All right, now I'm going to show you something else. Here, coming off from the ape, is showing you a step up of genetic change. Beginning over here, we get over here on land, and it shows you a breakdown of that ape being and where we at here. And it shows you a cocktail of creatures in there, one of which is being a reptile, which is in the green right there. But you'll see the likeness of the ape. I'm going to show you. Let me move this away so you can actually see. Right there, and over here by our arm, I believe somewhere. I believe on that side. Hold on, where we at? Oh, right here. There's the image of an ape there, and there's one as well here. Again, I have them highlighted for you, so you can actually see and get the likeness yourself. Right there and right there. Showing you a breakdown in that creature from his darkest of state, from his apest of apest state, to becoming that of its lightest state. Now, they can't show you, outright show you, should I say black folk, because or African folk, because then the cat will be out of the bag. So you turn the image and you see little likenesses of fair colored skin people with almost like a turban on his head. That turban is actually a reptilian game. And let me show you, don't even, if you look, if you spin it back over, where we at here? You could probably see it clearer there, but when you Google that, you'll see a face right in there. And this gets very interesting, people. So let me see if I can give you that face first. Where we at with that face? I gave you the brown face, right? Alright, where we at? Where we at? Where we at? There's the brown face, right in there. And then the reptilian, oh, there's the brown face right there. Alright. Now here is a reptilian looking face, and let me show you where, see if I can get that without screwing that up for you. And that can be realized. Just spin it around, people, and you will actually see it, because once I start showing you these what it's showing you is genetics in motion. And I'm going to show you what it's actually showing you here. How it's showing you that there's a cycle of these genetics, okay? An injection and then an extraction, okay? Now, I'm going to show you here. Notice that this unicorn creature is screaming and with its mouth open right there. Well, if you look inside of its mouth, the landscape, all of this here from this mountain of genes, this cocktail of genes right here, and this mountain comes to head in the shape of a penis. That's right, of a penis. It snakes around in the shapes of a penis, and this open mouth unicorn is getting the head of a penis right in its mouth. This here is the helmet of the penis, this whitened part, and the shaft is the landscape. So, whose penis is this unicorn getting in his mouth? Well, he's being genetically injected. If you take the image and spin it over, like this here, I think I can give you that. It cleverly creates the face of a reptilian ape creature, right there. Where the ape's top lip is right there, and the ape's bottom lip is actually the separating skin between the upper and lower jaw of the unicorn creature that creates the bottom lip of this being right here. So it's showing you a cyclination of these genes that were sent in to her. She's bridged over, and she's showing you that she's bridged between the unicorn, which is injected with this cocktail of these creatures, which was a representation of the horse, and the lion, which is back here. And she is genetically altered, and now the reason why she's wearing red and white, as in here, well, she's dawning to you that she's wearing she's covenanted in a new bloodline and a new semen line, which we all know is represented in that of resurrection or in birth. So this cocktail of genetics, these animals, are utilized to break down the strong presence of the ape gene. And this is how we were altered from this state to this state. Other than that, this was always the dominating gene of this world. The way it was figured out to be changed, where you were to attack it genetically with other creatures to break down this, to weaken the strong presence of this ape African ancestor genetic to weaken it to where it gave way and started producing likenesses like this. This is why we have throughout our continent where you have such dramatic changes from off the African continent throughout our Asian world, through our European world, and then on to our Caucasian counterparts that have hair equivalent to that of lions and the manes of horses. Because genetically, the presence of these creatures are there. This is what this is all about, people. This is what's been happening all along. This creature has evolved to where it's losing its hair. So how can this creature come from this creature and have so much hair? Well, people, there was some genetic help and manipulation. The creatures that you see hidden in the background and encrypted in these paintings, the lions, the horses, the donkeys, these creatures, and there's a lion encrypted in there as well. These creatures, people, is what contributed to those different likenesses of our mankind. And this is why our Caucasian counterparts seemingly look so genetically perfect in most eyes. My name is Jerome Wright. You're with me on my YouTube Jeronification channel. And before I close this video out, I'm going to take and show you something else. I like pulling this up. I pulled it up in the last video as well too. There's a African man somewhere off to the over here in the corner. He's cut out over there. The genetic manipulation process of our world, which is actually known amongst kings and queens and higher religious leader groups, ancient rooted religion that knows about this, not only calls for the likeness and the changes of our people of our world, but also calls for the different likenesses and characteristics in these apes. So the genetic manipulation through the cult-like rituals that we were subject to that calls for the changes, that caused us to change from this creature to these looking creatures to these looking creatures, and the dramatic change from these creatures and our African ancestor over here, with black man over here on this side, is the same process that these monkeys were subject to. And this is the reason why they evolutionized almost in a similar way that we did and dramatically look so different than that of their monkey counterparts, as we look so differently and differ so in so many ways from our own counterparts. People, each continent, from our Asian world, not just our Asian world, African, European world, our Mayan cultures, all of them, the creatures that they genetically altered themselves with are written in the history books on the walls. If you know how to read what is there, it is shown, people. It is shown. It is there. You have to understand what is being stated. Once you understand what is being stated, it can be read just as easy as this picture is here, because from our ape ancestor, which is back here, it's showing you a genetic breakdown, and it's shown here in the landscape, and it's showing that she is further in the process. She's showing at this point how she got to her likeness and how she furthered the process, and now she is carrying a new blood and semen line, which is produced by the human body. And that's why I like to call this the bloodstone with a little semen drop on the bottom of it. Showing you how through these creatures, there's a lion in there too, and the ape, how their blood their DNA contributed to altering her to now carry a new genetic bloodline which is being spread. Now, again, like I told you yesterday, look at who is in our world that is in control. Look at who we worship. Royalty, kings and queens. Look at who we worship. The Vatican, popes. Look at who we worship. Jesus. These individuals. Look at who we worship. And then look at how they protect themselves genetically in bloodlines. Look at royalty. How they protect their bloodlines. That is the most sacred thing to them. You know why? Because genetically they created it. It's a cocktail that they made themselves. So they're protecting it. Look at the Vatican. How they protect their bloodlines that they created through their genetic cocktail and genetic manipulation. They create a thing where you must remain celibate. You can't have sex. You're not supposed to have sex. They managed to get away with it with boys and things like that. They're of that nature. It's my position that they're doing it amongst themselves because they're creating a bridge to genetically alter. It's my position that the men in the higher places of the Vatican are allowed to be with each other, just like the women in monasteries and nun monasteries are allowed to be with each other in a lesbian way. Then they come together in the hierarchy, the popes and the mother of the nuns, and they can engage in these sexual acts to genetically alter themselves. And then what do you get out of all of this? Somewhere along the line, a miracle baby pops up, and they don't do it now because society is too smart for you to get a miracle baby popping up. So what they do is they create these babies and then send them off to one of their secret orphanages that they have. And then the baby pops up fatherless and motherless, but yet it doesn't belong to some virgin nun that been genetically altered. You see, you get the message, people? You see what I'm going at with this? Bestseller book, isn't it? Reality behind all of this is that when you have the truth on your side, all of the pieces mesh and come together. They come together in a way that nothing else, because it's all calls for common logical sense, and it's always been before us. The barricade that kept you from seeing all of this is your fear from what they instilled of you. Hell and heaven. Most of you are not going to neither place anyway, and I can tell you where you are going, but that's another video. All right, but my name is Jerome Wright. You're watching my YouTube Jeronification channel, and again, I was put onto these unicorns by John Zelensky. Okay, and there are I did miss another encryption. If you look at what comes out of the goat here in mouth now, I mean the guy's mouth, the unicorn's mouth down here, you'll see one of two snakes, a two-headed snake. There's one with the face of an ape on one end, right there. And then the other one can be realized that's wraps around, that creates his top lip. And let me see if I can get that. Right there, it creates his top lip, if I got this right. Let me see if I'm holding this right. This creates the head of another serpent. This guy's top lip, that's why it looks so big. So it's a two-headed serpent. And the other is in the form of an ape. You're seeing snaking off, breaking out. You know what that means? That through this guy's genetic bridging, this gene of the ape was captured, controlled, extracted. That's how they genetically bridged monkeys and Africans with these creatures, people, and blocked the genes that calls for the likenesses of these faces, and created the new genes that are permitted and allowed for the likenesses of these faces. a contamination. My name is Jerome Wright. You're watching my YouTube Jeronification channel. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. You will notice that to one side of this tree, and this is the landscape. This is unique how the artists use these landscapes. It represents land masses, land bodies where life evolved, how mankind came from what? From his ape African ancestor, and they even have dinosaur there, which represents that of a reptilian ancestor as well. And in some cases, the fish, because we evolved from out of the oceanic properties of our world. Okay, these artists knew that. Even back in, as early as I see catacomb images of the 2nd century, the 3rd century, the 4th century, and then coming later into artwork, the Renaissance era, which was oversaw by religion, by popes, that these artists, this famous artwork was only famous because it was encoded with this stuff here. It's my position that this artwork replaces something that replaces our world art, which was ancient in the first place. It's my position that the Vatican and ancient royalty in a second video. But basically, I'm going to show you how these Renaissance artists, in this case, the artist is Francesco di Giorgio, and what's that? Martin, I believe it is. And this is Chastity with the unicorn. Chastity with the unicorn. That's the name title of this image here. So if you Google this painting by Francesco Giorgio Martin, and this is Chastity with the unicorn. Okay, you will see what I'm actually pointing out to you to be in these encryptions of this artwork. Let me see if I can find me a pointer here. All right, I'm gonna have to use this pencil, I guess, as a pointer. I have highlights, but I'm gonna start back here. Okay, here at this tree here, right here. Okay, this is the first tree. It's going directly down toward your hand right here. Actually seen in it. Not in this image, but in the other one from Raphael. I think it's Raphael 46 or something like that there, with the unicorn in it, in its skin. In fact, the image is right here. And to make a long story short, Raphael's image is here, and then if you were to rotate the image to the side there, well hold on. If you were to rotate the image, actually, basically what you'll see is that you'll see the partial faces of beings. That of being a lion, an African man, and then mutations thereof. And do I have this upside down? No, I have it upright. And if I bring it in closer there, you can actually see what is actually there. In the middle, you see the full face of the cat there. Its nose, on its nose there is an ape. There's an African man there. His chin and his lips is over here. And then it shows the broken down genes of that by the lion, which stay. This is Jerome Wright, and once again you're joining me here on my YouTube Jeronification channel here on YouTube, or basically Jerome Wright. You YouTube search Jerome Wright, you get to my 200 plus videos. I believe I should have up to about 210, 215 YouTube videos now, and I kind of actually just lost track of them all. But anyway, I'm here with this image of a female with a unicorn, and I just did a video yesterday by Raphael, Renaissance artist Raphael, and I decoded that image, and I explained in detail why there are depictions of unicorns with females in these images, okay? And the overall video was inspired by fellow Facebook member John Zielinski, and he also follows me on YouTube there, and he asked me what I thought of this image, and what he thought that he had, that the semen of the lion dominated, the genetics of the lion dominated, and it's describing how this damsel here actually got her likeness, and also in her hair, protruding from her hairline, is also, and I highlighted it for you, is the image of a lion. And if you'll notice when you Google this image by Raphael, where I have the eye at, if you were to Google the image and enhance it, you will see the indentation there for that eye of the lion there. It's describing, was basically what this is stating, people, is that this is describing how this woman got her eye color, her hair, and her fair skin, and through a sequence of genetic bridging, which began with our ape and African ancestor. Well, ape, African ancestor, of course, yes. Now, what's happening here in this image is what I described here about the lion, about the genetic bridging, about the unicorn as a representation of the horse. All of these things are being described here as well. And I didn't have this image yesterday when I did my first video, because I would have included it in instead of being here making